This is Chao Adventure. This is a mini-game that came with the original Dreamcast ports of Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2. What you're looking at here is actually the memory card for a Sega Dreamcast, if you've never seen one before. They called it the Visual Memory Unit, or VMU, and it was designed to plug in, not to the console, but into your controller, like so. And the idea behind it was that as you were playing your game, the VMU could display different kinds of information or images. Most of the time it was just visual, but sometimes it was actually functional. But another function of it was that you could unplug the unit and play little mini games on it like this. And in the case of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, it was designed to help you raise Chao. But what exactly is it? Well, it is its own game. As you can see here, we have ourselves a little map that we're trying to follow, and our main goal here is to reach the end. It's actually got branching pathways, so you can go to different areas. As far as I can tell, there really isn't much of a difference between them. Our progress is measured in meters. So every 3,600 meters is when we get to a new area, and that takes about half an hour of real time to get to that point. Now there are a couple caveats to that. First of all, if we're in a menu like this or playing a minigame within the minigame, time won't pass. And also, if our VMU is in sleep mode like so, time won't pass for that either. It has to be on. So I'm not sure exactly how much of a toll that takes on the battery. Time has yet to tell for that. These are fresh new batteries that I installed today. For the first time, actually. I've had this for so long, and it never actually powered on its own, because when I first had these, I was so little I didn't really understand the concept of, changing batteries when things turned off. So, you see our Chao walking along here. We actually can't control him directly. We just kind of have to watch and wait for different things to happen. Nothing spectacular. Every once in a while, he might come across a chest so that you can look for items inside, or he might have a little message to show you. He likes to ask you things like, what's your name? What do you like to do? What do you like to eat? Or things like that. But every once in a while, he will come across another Chao, and they will actually fight each other. And I haven't seen what happens when you lose. I'm kind of afraid to find out. But if you win, you get a new item too. You can also get items by playing a game. There is only one game. I thought it might change between areas, but it doesn't. It's always the same game though, and it's this little match 2 games that you've seen before. If you've played the Tiny Chao Garden on the Game Boy Advance, this might seem familiar to you. You get 3 choices. I'm going to see if I can get them. I probably won't. Let's see here. This is riveting, I'm sure. This one up here? Nope. I always get those two mixed up. The round one and the triangle one, because they look so similar. But we will get it in the end. So if you win this game, you get a random little fruit to eat. If you get them all without getting any of them wrong, which is possible, you get a more powerful fruit. And they basically raise your base stats just like if you were giving them an animal. This one raises your runs. Some of them, the more rare ones, will raise them all, or they'll make you faster, things like that. But most of them will just raise one stat at a time. What was I about to say next? Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. So much for not having jump cuts in these videos. I just wanted to go over the different things that you could do besides the main game. First and foremost, you can check your Chao's stats. And in the Dreamcast ports of the game, this was actually the only way you could do this, whereas future ports of the game would give you the more practical option of just, walking up to your Chao and having a little chart appear. Back then, they really wanted you to use this thing. This was really designed to be a one-stop Chao raising shop, so if you wanted the hard numbers, you had to put them in here and check it this way. Along with that, and arguably the most important function of this, you can give your Chao a name. This was the only way to do this as well. There was no fortune teller. There was no naming machine. If you had a second memory card, or if you had a friend who had Chao Adventure on their card as well, you could actually connect the two. So you'll see this card has this funky looking slot here, and it's designed in such a way that they can link together like so. And when you do that, you can either have the Chao fight each other, which works exactly the same way as the battles in single player. And I think what happens is that whoever wins gets the other Chao's items if they have any. I'm not totally sure on that. And also, if you don't feel like fighting, you can have them mate together, which is how you get more Chao eggs. That was also the only way to do this. There was no black market. You'll also see a slot here labeled Owner. As the Chao is walking along here, every once in a while, usually after you feed them a fruit, they'll ask you some kind of question like, what's your name, what's your phone number, what kind of things do you like? And as you answer those questions, they will show up here. But if you want, come on, you don't have to wait for the Chao to ask you. You can actually go into the settings and just enter all that information yourself. And the whole point of that, not just to, have the Chao ask you things, but if you mate your Chao with another player's Chao, you can go here to the friend option, and it will show you, all that person's information that they've put in. So I'm not sure if it sticks around after you unplug this and bring the egg back or what have you. It doesn't seem to be totally necessary, but that is another function of this. And that really is all that this game has to offer. So that just leaves one final question. What happens when you reach the end? Well, as you can see, it takes about 2.5 hours of real time to beat the game. Every section takes about a half hour to complete. That if provided you're not just playing the memory game over and over. And if you get to the end, nothing happens. I actually did complete the game just to see, and you do reach a goal screen. There is a winning, there is a win state, but you don't earn anything. Your stats don't get raised at all. The game just ends, and then you start over. So there really isn't much of an incentive to complete it. Every once in a while you will come across one of the characters from the main game. I think they are linked to specific levels. And they raise your stats a little bit, but the best way of raising your Chao stats through the VMU is to just play this memory game over and over and chug down fruit as fast as you can. Because unlike future ports of the game, your Chao doesn't get full when they eat, so you can feed them as much as you want, as often as you want, and raise their stats that way. And in that sense, this actually does give a pretty viable option for raising your Chao, as opposed to, going into the main game and collecting animals and giving it to them that way. This offers, just a different way of doing it. Is it faster than the main game? I'm not really sure. Is it more fun than the main game? Well, no, not in itself, but it is a more passive way of raising the Chao, so you can play this while you're watching TV or listening to a podcast or something if you really wanted to. I know when I had my Game Boy Advance with the Tiny Chao Garden, that's what I used to do. So this is really just an earlier version of that, and you can see how the Tiny Chao Garden took inspiration from that. Alright, you saw Chao Adventure 1. This is Chao Adventure 2. This is what you get when you put your Chao in the memory card while playing Sonic Adventure 2. As you can see, it looks fairly similar to the first one. The main difference between this game and the last one is that this one is much shorter to complete, and there also is a very clear objective for it, or there's a very clear reward for getting to the end. The main goal for this one, as the manual states, is to collect tree seeds, which you can then take back to the garden and plant. Back in the Dreamcast ports, there was no black market, so this was how you got them. It was still, however, the only way that you could check your Chao's status and give it a name. As you can see, there are a few other options too that weren't in the first version. You can pet the Chao if you'd like, which sometimes makes it happy, sometimes just kind of makes it calm. It also wakes it up if it ever falls asleep while it's walking along the path. You can scold your Chao, which I don't know what it does because I'm not going to scold my Chao. There is a slot machine, which serves as this version of the minigame. Instead of the memory game, you get this. The idea behind it is that you spin the slots here, and if you line up these different images, you get whatever it was that you lined up. You can see there's a score here in the corner and a betting amount, and truth be told, I'm not quite sure what these do. I'm not sure what the higher or lower bets, I'm not sure what the effect has, because, truth be told, I've had a really hard time winning this thing. I've been able to line up the one with the exclamation mark a couple of times, but I haven't noticed what the effect is, and I haven't been able to win any items from this. So I don't know if the betting amount gets you more of that item, if it lines that up more easily. But more importantly, the score here doesn't really seem to have any kind of meaning. As you can see, when you spin the slots, it goes down by however much you bet, but when it reaches 0, nothing happens. All that happens is you can't spin the slots anymore, but then you just exit the slots and go back, and your score is back to 100 again. So that seems like maybe they didn't think that through very well. You can still mate with another Chao if you want. They call it hello here. I'm not sure if you can fight another Chao. I think you can. I actually haven't come across any kind of fights just on our own on single player. You can change your information again. You can look at, apparently what friend means is you can look at the information of whatever Chao your own Chao mated with, and you can change the options. So not too much different here. The main difference really is just the time it takes to complete the game itself, and the fact that there is actually an incentive to completing the game here. This one only takes about an hour, give or take, to reach the goal. And it seems like what they planned was, instead of going to different areas, you can play out different little scenarios. So, for example, the first time I played through the game, the Chao wound up having a toothache, so we went on a little adventure to get to the dentist and have the tooth pulled. And this one, the Chao's saying they want to be an idol, so I guess maybe we're going to have an adventure related to that. I'm honestly not too sure. The progression with this one is kind of hard to measure because there is no map and there is no way to see just how far along you've gone. And sometimes it'll say it's going to the next scene, but the background will be the same, and you can choose the name of the scene. I'm not sure if that means that you choose which adventure you're going on. It's been difficult for me to tell what effect it has. So overall, it's fairly similar to the first, but there are a few key differences. I think both versions have their ups and downs. Between the two, though, I think I prefer the first one more, mostly because of the utilitarian aspect. The memory game gave you a pretty viable option for raising your Chao compared to raising it to the main game, because you could win those fruits fairly easily and fairly quickly, whereas with the slot machine it's mostly luck-based, and I had a lot of difficulty winning even one item. This one, it is mostly just getting the tree seed at the end, which isn't all that important. So besides, giving your Chao a name and checking its stats, there's not much for you here. What I did like about this version, though, was that it did give the Chao a little more of a personality. It was kind of fun just to read whatever they had to say while they were going through their scenario, whereas the first one, it's just watching and waiting. But I don't think it's quite enough to make this worth doing all the time. Overall, I like what they were trying to go with here. I know it's probably more convenient to have everything on one game like it is nowadays, but something about holding this little 2-bit Game Boy in your hand, something with how simple it is, but also how useful it is for checking on your Chao's stats and giving it a name, and playing little games with it and taking it with you as you go where you want to go. It all has a kind of charm to it that I can't really explain. You can see how they took inspiration from it for future ports of this game, especially with the Game Boy Advance and the Tiny Chao Garden. And I kind of wish that this whole concept had survived into the modern day, if not with Sonic games, then just with some kind of spiritual successor. I think most of us can agree that Raising Chao was one of the most fun aspects about those games. And I can see, a more modern game maybe employing the same mechanic, not with a memory card or with a Game Boy, but maybe transferring the creature to an app on your phone so you can take it with you when you're away from your computer. And maybe someday we'll see a game like that. I really would like to see this whole concept come back. Man, I suck. There we go. Choa owner 2? What? I have no idea what's going on. This Chao keeps complaining about a toothache it's having. This is like the third time it's brought it up. So I guess points for continuity, but I finally told it to go see a dentist, and it was like, no, I don't want to go see a dentist, so unless I can win a toothbrush from those slot machines, it's out of luck. You're going. Yeah, you're going. Yeah, you'll thank me later. Next scene. Chao owner 1. Chao. So I don't know what these mean. Excuse me. Let's try Chao's song. Let's see what happens. Nothing happened. It did something like that before. I couldn't tell what the difference is. Guys, don't worry. We made it to the dentist. That's too bad, little buddy. That's too bad. We're gonna take care of that toothache. God, this text is slow. Oh, I can hold the button. Uh-oh. Oh, I feel bad for it. But not too bad. Brush your teeth. And floss, too. Ah, childhood trauma. She's gonna remember this for the rest of her life. Don't tell her that. She's just gonna eat nothing but candy. Oh man. Riveting plot gameplay. I really hate going to the dentist. Oh god. This is like the main plotline. I thought this was just going to be a one-off thing when she's like, oh, my tooth hurts. This is the whole game. You see, Sega is really concerned about teaching the children. That's right. Forbidden Seed. I'm not gonna make the joke. Okay, so we reached a goal. Oh, that's the end. Oh, shit. Okay. So that's Chao Adventure 2, everybody. I didn't think we would actually reach the end. So that took way less time than the original one. That probably only took maybe an hour at most. I kind of had this thing going off and on. And we got ourselves a little tree seed. I don't have the stuff to plant it yet, so I don't know what it's gonna grow. I guess forbidden fruit. I don't know what that does. Yeah. Closure.